Well, hello, my friend. How are you today?
Hello, Melissa. It's so good to be able to spend time with you, even if it's
Uh,
online.
I know. And we're so happy to be able to record and do the videos now. So people get to see us talking. This is the first time we've done that together,
That
right?
is, it's going to be the first time that we'll
Yeah.
have the videos out there too. So I'm
So
excited.
exciting. Yes. And it's a culmination. Today you and I just want to chat about what's been going on personally. And we've been dabbling in it. I know you have with your clients and friends, and even here on our podcast, we've talked about what we're going to talk about today. But I think today is going to be what we're just going to be really transparent and just really tell our story because we think it's important. Because guess what, ladies, we are you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's important that women going through this and our clients understand that even as coaches, we're challenged, and it makes us even better to help advocate when we are going through it. We don't love that we're going through it,
Right.
but we really do need to have some empathy. And it's really hard to have empathy sometimes if you haven't been challenged
Mm-hmm.
by the health issues, and particularly what we're going to talk about today, the gut issues.
Yeah. And, this is something that and I'm just going to jump in because that's the way Kim and I kind of roll. But, gut health, and we'll just throw, because that's a common term, gut microbiome, all the different diagnoses that are out there, some of which we're going to talk about. Um, there's confusion as to really what it is, what it feels like, what the symptoms can be. And we both experienced different symptoms. But so let's start at the top. I mean, most of our listeners, and if you don't know us, we just want to introduce ourselves. So we both live in St. Augustine, Florida. So we are besties. We spend a lot of time together when we're not working, and we love that because we have so much in common. And we studied at the same school, IIN, and I've lived with type 1 diabetes for many years, and I'm also in menopause. And it's funny, I just heard a term today from a doctor, because I guess what, we're listeners too. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and she said something that was funny because I always thought that once we hit menopause, we got to that, I guess that next stage, it was post, and she's like, well, not really, we're always in menopause. So anyway, that's just a thought, it's a theory. So we're at this time in menopause, and we share that. And yeah, it's something. And I think it's very ironic that this year, meaning 2023 or 2024, really, the full year of 2024, as we're recording this, things have come up with my health that was just, it was like a slap in the head. I just didn't understand where it came from. Yeah.
Yes. And I think as nutritional health coaches, you are a type 1 diabetes coach. I focus more on emotional eating, stress eating, overeating, but we both help women who are going through any stage of the menopausal process. And I think many times we think it's coming from maybe those changes. And like you said, it's really been challenging for both of us. We've had two different
Mm-hmm.
things. We're going to share our stories in case you've been going through any version of a gut health issue then, and you may be in, perimenopause or postmenopausal, which is again, like Melissa said, all menopausal. And the slap in the face for me, I'm going to be honest, is perimenopause was so hard on me, hard on my
Mm-hmm.
body. It's the weirdest symptoms. And when you go out to our Instagram pages, you'll see we post about all the weird symptoms. Gut
Mm-hmm.
health issues is actually something neither of us really thought about too much because
Mm-mm.
of all the other things that we already knew that we had gone through.
Yeah.
So it was like a double slap in the face to make it through menopause, get on hormone therapy, feel good again. We both were feeling really good and we were on top of the world again. And then we both came crashing down with different issues. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really, I think, so important because, all women going through this right now, have different things going on. So even if you haven't hit that point of dealing with something with your gut, even if it's minor, you can now say, oh, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe I need to check it out. Maybe
Yeah.
this is not normal and it's just
Yeah.
become my new normal.
Oh, yes. Yes. That is a common term, even if it's right or wrong, or, optimal is really where we want to be. But if you're just used to feeling a certain way, you don't know that it could be better, or really what, a normal doesn't have to be in pain. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be in suffering. It should really be acknowledging that this isn't right and seeking help. So what happened with us this year? I guess I'll start with my story.
Yeah, please share your story
Oh my
because
gosh.
it's a doozy.
It was December of 2023, so it's coming up on a year, is when I first started noticing skin issues, and it started on my face where I was breaking out. What looked feel in, and because you saw me, so you saw me in person, so you kind of walked alongside what I was looking at every day in the mirror, like acne, like I was breaking out. And what's the first thing we do when we think of that? We're like, oh, well, something caused that, right? We just think
One
it was
thing.
one little thing. Oh, well, I was eating a little too rich during the holidays. Maybe that was what it was. So it's so easy to just point it, discount it, minimize it. And I guess I put some benzoyl peroxide on it or whatever it was, just thinking that it was just going to, just kind of take care of itself. Well, it really didn't. And then by January into February is when I had an outbreak on and I'll even point to the area. It was right here on my chest. And it was like a lesion. It just broke out. It was itchy, red. And again, I have never had skin outbreaks. I was very lucky growing up. I never had the hormonal acne. Um, so this was like, what the heck is going on, right? And and then at that point, I was just treating it with some over-the-counter ointment just to kind of calm it down. Again, thinking it was just kind of an acute thing, right? Because we just think it's something we did, touched, ate, whatever. This continued. It got worse and worse and worse. And it was spreading up and down my arms. By June, July, I remember this because I was just looking in my phone. This is kind of funny. It's not funny now. I can look back and say, wow. But I was during my course of seeing different dermatologists, because that's what we do when our skin has outbreaks, right? We go to the skin experts. And that again turned into just rounds of, ointments and some steroids, again, to calm it down. But as you all probably have picked up on, both Kim and I, if you've gotten to know us, there's part of our brain that just wants to get rid of those symptoms, because especially skin, I think it's so visible. It's not something that it's not easy to hide, especially on your face, because guess what? We can't walk around with a mask on, a face covering all day long. And then people are really asking what's wrong, right?
And I have to say, I had so much empathy for you because when Melissa and I don't see each other in person, we do Marco Polo videos every day. Literally every day we see each other on these videos and we talk.
Yeah.
And my heart was breaking for you because it was one of those things where do you remember even for your birthday gathering that we had at Embassy Suites?
Yeah.
I remember you talking about it that day, and here you were trying to get dressed up and celebrate your birthday, and you were having to deal with the skin issues, and my heart was breaking for you. So this wasn't going on like it was an outbreak for a week or a month. This has been going on month after month after month.
Exactly.
And imagine, you go out every day, you have to go to the gym. And what do we do in the gym? We don't wear a lot of makeup in the gym. We're sweating, and all the events that you go, you always have planned social outings.
Right.
So I just, want to share with the audience, I could feel the pain
Yeah. Yeah.
And with someone who did have acne terribly in high school, I could feel it. And I just
You
felt
could
bad for
relate.
you.
Yeah, yeah. And there was so many layers to it. And I know your story is just as powerful because it's not only the reminder when you wake up in the morning. I can remember when I would get up in the morning, and my routine is, like many of us, I get up and I use the bathroom, I pee. And then I go right to the sink, and I've been doing this for years, but I just turn on the faucet, and hopefully the water's nice and cool or even cold, and I splash cold water on my face. That's just my wake up. um, I would do that, and I would purposely not look up at the mirror because I did not want to have to face what had happened while I was sleeping. Did it get worse? Did it spread further? What is it doing today? Again, something I felt I had no control over. And so I remember avoiding the mirror for as long as I could in those, the first part of the day, which is something just like you say, but we still have to put our face on, do our hair, do what we can, to get out the door, to meet clients, to attend meetings. It was paralyzing. And then we put ourselves in this bucket because you and I spend a lot of time helping other people. And I couldn't help myself.
That was very hard. And I know
Yeah.
you were just struggling. And I feel for you because we do as health coaches, we want to put on that we have it together and that
Yeah.
we know what's going on. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm
I
so sorry you had to
know.
go
And
through that.
it's interesting because and I'm going to share, we're both going to just unpack where we are now. Things are better now, but I had to take pictures as I was going through all these different stages of dermatology appointments of my progression. And I just stumbled upon the folder I had in my phone the other day of these pictures. And I was like, wow. I mean, just how broken out I was. It's amazing what your heart and your head can just say, okay, this is just another day. And I struggled because I'll tell you, there was a deep depression. I was I was fighting. The devil was hard in my head, just giving me the
Yeah.
doubt that that there was no hope. So, and it does, looking back at those pictures, it really triggered that, just that feeling.
And our
Yeah.
self-worth. Our self-worth,
Hmm.
even though you and I are both women of faith, so we do know that our self-worth comes from Christ on a very rational and a heartfelt level.
Yeah.
But in the world of having to post on, all the social media platforms for our businesses, it is our self-worth sometimes feels like it's coming from
Hmm.
our outer shell too. We know the truth of it, but do we really know the truth when we first are dealing with all of this? And
That's
when we're in
right.
the middle of it, it's very challenging.
It's a challenge, yes. And that's one thing we are promised on this earth is that we will be challenged. I think
Yes.
everybody can raise their hands on that on all levels. Okay, so what happened soon after? And this is the emotional side and the physical I guess relationship I was having with these outbreaks. Then then I look at the medical side. Okay, so what was I doing? I was going to a lot. There was one dermatologist here locally that I went to, and it was very clinical. Take a take an ointment, see if this helps. Some things worked. I have so many bottles left in my bathroom, where I keep things. I've slowly gotten rid of some of them and it's funny because your mind tells you, well, it might come back. Maybe I should hang on to it. Yet the other side of my brain is saying, no, this is not the answer because I have now looked at the root cause, which is what we're really going to be talking about today, which is my gut microbiome. So the skin in my case was just it was a symptom, and it's something we talk a lot about. And it's so ironic that this really, and it's something that I never experienced, was skin issues as a symptom of something not being in balance in my body or optimized, or in this case, what's the word, harmed. It was unhealthy. So my skin was just yelling. It's like, whoa, this is not good. Take care of me. Find out why. So again, it took time. I actually had some biopsies done, some skin biopsies. I had 2 different rounds of skin biopsies. One of my thoughts, and I even had to go to the doctor to advocate for this, because they initially didn't even want to do a biopsy. They were like, oh no, it's just eczema. Here's some cream. You'll be good. I knew in my heart that this was escalating, that this was much more than that. But I also wanted to look at the autoimmune part of this. Again, type 1 diabetes. This is an autoimmune induced condition. We do tend to lead to other autoimmune conditions. Luckily I haven't, but I was like, well, maybe this is my other autoimmune that's going to tap onto insulin dependent diabetes. And so we were looking at some other skin issues that were tied to autoimmune. So Sjogren's, I always kind of butcher that name.
Sjogren's, yeah.
Sjogren's, you're much better at the pronunciation than I am. Thank you, my friend. And then lupus, which scared me, because again, a lot of us, we do our own research. And Kim, you and I are real lucky because we have access to really good sound resources, not Google, but
real people and
real
our
people,
podcast guests. And what scared me for you with the lupus possibility was I remember you going through the phase of not knowing if you were allowed to be out in the sunlight or not.
Yes.
And we live for, having that little sunshine dose every day. We walk, we run, we have dogs. So that was a little scary.
It sure was. Yeah. Just facing that could be the result or the diagnosis. So luckily it was not. I did some ANA tests, which are measuring other biomarkers. Obviously it came back that I could have other biomarkers, but it didn't point to lupus. So it was kind of the good or bad, but we're just assuming, and the doctors just assume that that's just pointing to my type 1. So anyway, so we kind of went on from there. And then I did a cleanse. It was herbal, and it was a company that I found that I still am strongly in favor of. I think what they produce is a really good thing. I started with that. It was a 30-day, pretty simple, some tinctures that I mixed up, drank, I think it was 3 times a day, just kind of worked that into everything else I was doing. Oh, and you know what I didn't even talk about? Because I know this is going to be big with your story, is, okay, you come home from a visit and it's like, okay, what do I eat? What don't I eat? What do I touch? What don't I touch? What kind of soap? What do I have to get rid of? It was driving me crazy. And it made me so aware of women I've worked with that have gone through these struggles, that have asked these questions. And these are things that we talk about in sessions, is the do's and don'ts, the goods and bads, which is such a bad label to put on anything that we do. I think it really is about awareness and understanding whether it's a food or a practice or whatever, how or if it's really impacting us. But I remember talking with you about that, Kim and I. It's like, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what to eat. Is this triggering it? Is that triggering? It can drive you crazy. There were some days.
Well, we both went down the histamine route, trying to figure out, are we having too many histamines? And I'll talk about it in my story, but what I pulled out to see if that had anything to do with my gut issues,
right.
It's just crazy. And then after a while, it's like our clients sometimes are, what can I eat?
So again, I think it was a learning tool for us as well. I think we are very compassionate and very empathetic with people that we work with and help. But I think it served as an amazing opportunity for us to live it, feel it, experience it ourselves. So I think that just deepened our abilities and our strengths as coaches. So yeah, like all things, there's definitely some good that comes out of it, and that's one thing that I continue to walk away with, is just that further understanding. So where am I now? I went on after the I know this is kind of a long story. Okay, I'm gonna we can chit chat forever. I know we haven't even gotten to yours in full, but basically I did the cleanse. The cleanse served. I actually felt amazing on the cleanse. It really just cleaned up everything. I think my insulin sensitivity was amazing. A lot of things that were happening while this was going on were my other hormones. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. So my hormone replacement therapy, which I've been on for close to 4 years now, those levels came back low. So that was another factor I was looking at. Again, doctors were not considering that either. You and I talked about it, Kim. We were both talking about, well, what it could be part of this, it could be part of that. So I still think it's part of that. I still think that's part of the equation. And I think that's another thing that we really want to talk into today is to trust your gut, your intuition, because you know what's happening with your body, and hopefully you're having some tests done, some levels checked where there's proof in that. My insulin resistance started to pick up. This was after that cleanse. So the cleanse kind of helped clean things up a little bit, because that's one of the advantages of doing that. But later on in the summer is when I was taking much more insulin. Again, I was inflamed, right? And then we all know inflammation just just kind of tosses that cookie at us. It's just part of it. So after the cleanse, and then I went to another practitioner, and Kim and I did something at the very same time. It was like within a day apart.
Exactly.
And in hindsight, and again, we can't change what we didn't do, but I would have done this a lot sooner. And that is getting the GI map test done. And that is an amazing tool to really see what's going on. And you and I, we were just on the same path with that. We're seeing the same practitioner for that. And when we got our results back, we were comparing bacteria, which is amazing. So they did find a parasite. I did go on an antibiotic to treat the parasite. And, with all this going on, my hormones were starting to get more back online. These are my estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, because they were really on the low side. So those were not supporting my body and my optimization either. So I think the combination of that, the combination of getting on some really good probiotics that were recommended, and then getting on an antibiotic. Again, the probiotic is going to help minimize the effect of the gut microbiome. It's so interesting when we think about that, because we think of antibiotic doing just the opposite, but obviously it has to get rid of in this case, a parasite, a bacteria that should not exist, because that's causing you harm. So you got to get rid of what's working. And then in the same token, you've got to bring in some things that are going to help to heal. So that's where I'm at right now. And with further looking at my bacteria with those same tests, I am now on a intestinal, and it is a herbal. It's just a capsule 3 times a day. I am right in the middle of that right now. So I'm about 10 days into the protocol. It's a 30 days that I take this. And that is supposed to completely heal all this other bacteria. So again, we have good and bad. We want that in a better balance. And it's so funny, because probiotics is not something, and this is part of the story too, I've never been on a probiotic. I always thought that we'd have to have symptoms first. And it's always a good thing, and this is some things that I suggest and I coach as well, is that you should have these tests done, like a GI map, like Kim and I had done, in order to know what to, fortify or heal, or whatever seems to be, because otherwise you're just kind of throwing an enzyme or some sort of formulated the good bacteria back onto a problem. So in some sense that can even make it worse. So knock on wood, my skin has calmed down quite a bit. Hormones are getting back on track, and insulin sensitivity is really doing well. So we are recording this in mid-October. It's been quite a year. It has been quite a learning year.
It sure has.
I know. And that's the short of it. And I know I took a lot of
Yes.
time explaining that.
No, but you
Yeah.
did still shorten really what was going on, because you just
Mhm.
encapsulated a year's worth of discomfort, a year's worth of discovery, a year's
Mhm.
worth of different doctor's appointments. And I don't think what the
Mhm.
audience really understands is how many appointments you have
Yes.
had in the past year to
Yes.
try to
And
figure
the
this out.
yes, and the cost,
Hmm.
in hindsight, I could have eliminated a lot of time and cost if I had just gotten that GI map done. So maybe we're going to plug the GI mapping test today. I don't know. That's definitely was not our incentive when we started talking, but I am a big advocate of gathering the facts, and I know you are too. So share. Yes. Yes, we
Well,
want to know.
I'm just going to share that mine is very TMI, so be prepared. But as a health
Mhm.
coach, I'm very used to talking about our pooping habits. So there's your hint. And it's really interesting to me because I feel like, again, I always thought I was a healthy person. So when this started happening, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was going through a rough time. I started in March to realize, March of 2024, we're now in October, that I was really constipated all the time. And the reason why I remember March is I was in Colorado visiting two of my grown children
Mm,
and thinking, oh, maybe it's just traveling. I need to buy some Miralax and take care of this. And for any of you who have gone through this,
mm,
it's terrible to have to take a laxative anywhere, because you don't know the next day, what's going to happen. Is this going to come out in 2 hours? It's like doing a
right,
colonoscopy prep every time
right.
you have to take it. If it's going to work itself out starting at 4 a.m, 7 a.m., it was very challenging. And what I realized when I look back is it was actually happening before that. So it had been happening not straight out of perimenopause. I'm going to say I know that I did not have gut issues during perimenopause as far as the constipation. However, at
Mm,
that time, I was very bloated. I feel like I did have trouble digesting things, but I had different symptoms. I was also very gassy. So when I started to go through the constipation, here's some weird things that doctors asked me that I
mm,
did not have, that were not necessarily the red flags that they would look for. I did not have any acid reflux. I did not have any gas when I started getting constipated. And the constipation was not settling right away in the bottom of my belly where I would get distended right away. It was taking so much time that it was kind of spread out. So I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel icky. I was working out. I could function, except that every fourth day of my life, I had to take something in
mm.
order to, and trust me, I tried all of
Yeah,
the things. I tried, and we'll get into probiotics with me too, but I tried digestive enzymes.
yeah.
I still take them, by the way, because they are helpful. But I tried stool softeners. I tried a natural bowel stimulator. I tried a lot of natural ways to take
Mhm.
care of this. I have done belly massage. I've done it all. And
Mhm.
so every time someone would say, people are so loving and they're so trying to be helpful, but everybody had a remedy for constipation
Sure.
and, what to take, what to rub on your belly. So I actually was going to our hormone specialist and the practitioner that Melissa was talking about, and I was telling her about it. And I asked her if there was any possibility that being on the hormone therapy, estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, if any of that could have changed, because that was something that was different in my life. And
Mhm.
I have been postmenopausal, even though we know we're menopausal kind of through this whole thing.
Right.
I've been
The term.
postmenopausal for a few years, and I've been on hormones at least a couple years. We both were trying to remember when we started. We
I
can't, and we
know.
love it.
Four-ish.
We're so
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
with them. But what was happening to me is I was not absorbing them.
Same
And
here.
again, we were talking about Melissa. We both had low absorption. We tend to parallel a lot in our lives. We're a year apart in age. I'm a year older, and we kind of parallel with everything. So I was asking her about that, and she said, "You know what? I'm doing this new thing." Melissa had just talked about it. She had heard about it right before I did. And she said, "I'm doing this new thing, this GI mapping. What do you think for doing it?" We kind of were laughing, like kind of for fun, but at the same time, let's just see what happens. So I decided to invest the money. And of course, I have to tell you, my husband is, go with where you have insurance. Don't spend the money, because you can't get this particular GI mapping in
Covered by
full, the
insurance.
5 pages worth,
Yeah.
without doing the functional medicine style. And
Right.
it can be, a few $100 to $500. I'm just putting, I don't know what your practitioner would charge, but that's around the range.
Right. That's an
So
average. Yeah.
yes, so
And
mine
that's, and
came,
that's,
yeah,
yeah. And I'm going to interrupt for just a second, because this is part of the frustration, because we
yes.
both want root cause. We work towards, and there's a lot of people like us and coaches like us that, for insurance to not want to search for the answers, because we know in the long run that's going to save money. It's going to save them money, doctor's visits, additional medicines, which all are the things I had to go through, right? All those things I had to purchase, co-pays, and the suffering. Anyway, I'm going to rant about that, because, and this is a common thing, I know we can all agree on this, is that they don't focus on preventive ways to treat our health. Yeah.
And what's challenging is we have to ask for that. And if you're not a health coach or another practitioner, you may not know what to ask for.
So true.
So when I had a gut health course after IIN, very light, but it went through all the different possibilities of H. pylori, Candida, SIBO, all of those, it just in an overview, so that we would understand, that these are possibilities. Any kind of bacterial overgrowth in our intestines, small or large, could be causing some issues, or yeast could be causing some issues. So I get it back. And just like Melissa, I actually think I found out first. I did. We talked about this. I had a parasite, and I had a very aggressive parasite, and it is called Blastocystis hominis. I know I'm not saying it exactly correctly, but it's very aggressive. I had to go on 3 antibiotics, and both Melissa and I don't love antibiotics. We know what that actually does to the gut, but we both were so ready to make sure that we took care of everything. And by the way, 50 to 80% of the population could have a parasite. So please don't be frightened.
That's true.
And so, look at us. We're health coaches, and we both had a different form of a parasite. We had different ones. But I will tell you, I know that mine came from some kind of contamination with food or water. The way I travel, and I've camped, and some of the places that I've been, I'm very, very sure. Yeah, maybe I could have gotten it from sushi. We hear all about that all the time, but I know the conditions. I also have chickens, and I've had chickens for 11 years. So there's all kinds of different things that could have happened. It's not necessarily a horrible thing. Many people can live with a parasite symptom free forever and never know. Most people don't, because most people don't get a GI mapping.
Right.
But the other thing that came up was our practitioner looked through to make sure it wasn't C. diff, H. pylori, Candida, all of that. She thought maybe there could be a possibility of some SIBO, but there's an order of operation. She wanted to get rid of the parasite first. So I also went on, I had been taking a regular probiotic, and it's just like the Bifida, the normal, one that anybody can get. And then she put me on Espelarti also. So if you end up hearing that term in your journey, that is a popular one to go on when you have gut issues, and many functional medicine doctors will have you take the Espelarti probiotic. So like Melissa, I did a different type of cleanse because there was a possibility. It wasn't for sure, because I did not do the breath test with SIBO, because that's what a doctor gastroenterologist would have you do, is the breath test. You can do that also through functional medicine, but because it was only a possibility, I decided to, when I looked at the protocol, I thought, what do I have to lose by taking out gluten, dairy, corn, soy, and sugar? Not forever, because I'm not allergic. I'm not intolerant. I don't enjoy all those things all the time anyway, but I cut them out for 3 weeks. And here's what happened. One, got rid of the parasite, still had massive constipation. Two, dropped a few pounds in inflammation. I want to be very clear, because this was not fat loss, because I do scans, but I did drop inflammation, and I was less puffy after taking out the gluten, dairy, corn, and soy. Not surprising at all. But I think that I was sleeping better. My hormones were absorbing better. I could feel a difference in my energy. Even though I thought I was having energy, I do believe that my hormones, and I will be having those checked in a couple weeks to make sure that I'm on the right track with that. But I just want to be clear that none of this solved the constipation. However, other good things came from it. So I felt better. And I'm always eating protein, fiber. I drink water. I don't drink alcohol. So these things were so confusing for me to try to understand why my motility was different. Well, here's my final part to this. I had a follow-up appointment. I was sent to have a colonoscopy because I got in touch with my doctor, and I wanted to now go down the Western medicine route. And the first thing they had me do is go get a colonoscopy, just to rule out anything really crazy. So I went and got the colonoscopy. Everything's clear. It's great. I had just had one 8 years ago. I was 2 years early, but they wanted to double check it. I was like, that's fine. So we had the follow-up today, and I'm going to share with you what my doctor is sharing with me. She does not feel that it's SIBO, based on the fact that, again, I don't have the bloating, I don't have the gas, and I don't have the acid reflux. But what she is wondering, so and because I have had done a lot of things with my food, she also feels like that possibly, and it didn't change anything. She doesn't feel like it's possibly that. We can always do that test later. But she is looking at slow transit. Something kicked off a very slow transit now in my body as far as moving things through. And when it's slow transit, it has that opportunity. It has the stool, has an opportunity to sit. It's not getting hydrated, and it's getting harder. So it's even harder to move through the system. So there's a lot of reasons for that. But here's another interesting thing that I'd already looked into, because we look up everything and we talk to everybody. We have a lot of great resources, is possible pelvic floor issues. And the reason why I'm not particularly sure, I thought maybe I'm really tight in the pelvic floor. Some people are in the opposite direction, but I don't have incontinence, and I don't have prolapse or anything like that. But we do lift weights every day, and and I do lift heavy. So I thought, well, maybe I've done something to the pelvic floor, but my constipation, it's not sitting in the lower part. It's throughout my system. So we're going to try it out. What she said to me, which is very funny, Melissa will appreciate this so much. She said, I know you don't like taking medicine, but there is a medicine for slow transit so that you're not having to live on laxatives. Because I'm going to be honest with you, as a holistic nutritional health coach, I am not feeling good about having the products, the Dulcolax, the Miralax, the Senecot, all the things that I've tried in my system. I don't feel good about that. So that's my story. That's where I am today. And I'm still working on it. We're going to go to that next level where I will meet up with a gastroenterologist, and we'll just see. But please remember, we're going to talk so much about advocacy, as we talk about what you can do. But remember, you don't have to do anything, unless it's life threatening. And I highly recommend getting a second opinion, because being able to talk to, 5 or 6 different people in different areas of this field, and on the functional medicine side and on the Western medicine side, has been extremely helpful. And it's helped me not jump on certain things that I could be like the SIBO protocol. I've only
Okay.
done what I know would be healthy for me anyway.
Good
So
point. Good point.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
that
quite a,
connection, we do
mm-hmm.
know there's a connection
Yeah.
between our age, possible autoimmune, possible hormonal changes,
Mm-hmm.
but every person is different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
looking down that road and having hope, because it is exhausting. I
Yeah.
have clients that are, 20, 30 years older than us, 20 years
Mm-hmm.
older than us, 25
Mm-hmm.
years. And their whole life revolves around doctor's appointments. And I understand
Yeah.
now why, because
Yeah.
we've been through
Yeah.
that. And I have
We went through
so
that.
much empathy for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to and to feel, I think, and this is both of our frustrations is that we go into what our health was challenging with us, thinking that we could figure it out, um, or that we could find the practitioner. And I think eventually we did. I still think you and I leaned on each other. Probably, I can't imagine going through it without you. Very thankful for that.
Likewise.
Yeah, just because I knew I had a a sound voice, a sound ear that would listen, understand, and help me make decisions. Really kind of navigate what my next steps were. It's just so important to have somebody that can lean on. And you mentioned, and I'm learning more about this as well. We continue to learn. I think it's one thing. I'm a sponge. I love to keep learning and absorbing more information. And then the medical, the more the functional side is really understanding more about the woman's body, our woman's body, and how it's all connected. And luckily, there's so much more information out there and documentaries being done. And there's a huge advocacy for it. So, and if we encourage you to tap into that, and that's some things that we can link here in our show notes just to kind of direct you. But just the connection with our our microbiome and hormones. Because I'll be honest, when I started on hormone replacement, because everything else was just kind of sliding along okay. My diabetes was just, everything was working. It was predictable. But I noticed as soon as obviously something, the gut is what just tipped it off. And it wasn't perimenopause, it was really later on. So again, something happened with that gut microbiome for myself that triggered not only the inflammation, the skin, the insulin resistance. Um, yeah. And you don't know it when you're in it, do you? It's like
No.
it's like a web, which is
And
nice that we
there's
can kind of step back and say, now I get it. Now I understand. I understand better. I don't know that I fully
Yes.
understand it,
Well,
but I
the
understand
inner
better.
connection too, and we want to have everything lead to everything else. So I thought that my gut issues, at first I thought that the hormones were causing the constipation.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought the gut, because my gut may not be healthy. Maybe I was cheating a little bit, and I don't like that term. I was living
Mm-hmm.
life. Maybe I was
Yeah.
living life a little bit and eating food that I wouldn't normally eat, or I was having a friend's sourdough bread or whatever. And then I thought, well, then I'm not absorbing my hormones very well. And
Right.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's causing issues. And
Mm-hmm.
we just want to keep pinpointing, but our mind, our body, our heart, our muscle, our gut, our liver, everything is so connected
Mm-hmm.
that really when we're feeding one, we're feeding the other. And that's what I'm
Mm.
really understanding.
Good
And one
point.
thing
Good
that I
point.
didn't know is I can't believe I've never been told this before when I've had a colonoscopy before, but I also found out something about my body that it sounded very weird and very scary, but I have a very long, large intestine,
Mm.
supposedly. And that may play into why it hasn't before. Who knows? I mean,
I
who
know.
knows? And I think what I've thought at the end of this, I've been so desperate to know what's going on. I've been so desperate to find the answer that it's not that I don't care why it's happening. I do care. But I also realize that other things have gone well by making some of the changes that I did in the
Mm.
process. So it's almost like it's not that I don't care. I want to find out what's going on, But a lot of these changes, when you are gaining weight and you're not feeling well and you're eating emotionally and your skin is breaking out and you're bloated and you're having digestive issues, there are so many things that you have nothing to lose that you can try right in your house, and food and walking and
Mhm.
water and
Yeah.
reducing some of the things that could be causing issues that you already
Yeah.
know. There's nothing
Yeah.
to lose by trying that on your own first.
Absolutely. Yes. And in all of our cases, it's always best to start with the basics. I call it dialing it in, right? And it's not
Yes,
perfection.
yes.
It's just it's awareness, just to be true to yourself about how you're really practicing all the things that you just mentioned, and to look for help if you need it, as far as what that, to get some support around, whether it's your diet, exercise routine, sleep. I think, that's a number. It just keeps coming up: stress, sleep, metabolic disease. I've been doing a lot of, I'm reading the book by Dr. Casey Means. It's called Good Energy, and I highly recommend it. It's funny because I've got the book and I'm reading through it. It's a lot of things I've either heard her talk about, or, I've followed along with other doctors that she also recommends. So, but it's really nice how she puts it all together. And and I was a little resistant to, not resistant, but I was like, do I really need to know this? But it's such an easy read and it's so educational, but it does get back to the basics that we're talking about, and how important the gut microbiome is for all systems and cells in the body. So just a good read. Is there anything that stands out to you, Kim, because I know you're a big reader. I know you're always
Yes,
got
I
some.
I am really involved in 2 books right now, and one of them is Dr. Gabrielle Lyons,
She's
and
great.
she has this amazing book about muscle and the power of muscle, and
Mm,
so all the health habits that we do to support muscle are everything that we talk about with everything else also.
yeah.
The food we eat, the protein, the fiber. I feel like we sometimes forget that, again, there's all these other systems that work together, and muscle is mental health, it's digestion,
Yeah.
it is metabolic health. And you talk about
Mm-hmm.
metabolic health quite a bit, and so does, Casey Means. The
Mm-hmm.
second book that is really interesting to me is Lisa Mosconi has done the
Another good
menopause
one.
brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And haven't gotten through all of that, but everything overlaps. Everything that we talk about, everything that they talk about in these books, everything overlaps. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things that's really interesting is, you mentioned sleep and stress, and I really thought for sure that stress was going to be the piece for me that was going to fix all of it. And so I've been working really hard on it. It hasn't, but stress has reducing it has fixed other things in my life. So
Interesting.
again, it's
Mm-hmm.
all of these lifestyle habits you and I always talk about, even if it's not going to this particular issue or a particular issue you're having, it will improve your life to do
Yes.
those lifestyle
Yes.
habits. What's
Absolutely.
what's your future look like? What are you doing
It's,
next?
it's a great, I'm continuing on what I'm on right now. What I'm on right now, the protocol I was talking about with the herbs. And like I was saying, it's slowly minimizing. I'm going to just continue to focus on, the things that we do. And again, we're not perfect, but I'm going to try to dial in everything even better, just to really appreciate the food and the fresh food. And you mentioned stress. I know we just talked about stress. I tend to be a little bit too amped up most days. So I have to be more cognizant of that and to bring things down a lot more. So that's something I continue to be working on. I'm doing more stretching at night. This is something I talk about a lot. I share this a lot with my clients, and it's a good suggestion. Something so easy, but just it really induces a really good night's sleep. And not to mention, it sure helps with just keeping the joints and ligaments a lot looser, because we both do some high intensity type exercises, but it's so important to offset that with relaxation, whether it's yoga or, whatever that looks like for you, but it really is about slowing down, tapping into breath. And I know tapping, the concept of tapping, which I know you can speak into even more. Just those things that are so attainable. And that's what I want to start spending more time on, just being more intentional with that time. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's great. I am doing the same thing. I'm finding that I have to stretch at night. I have
Mm,
cramps. I do take electrolytes in my water during the day, especially if I've had a hard workout. And I'm trying to, we've talked a lot about protein and making sure,
mhm.
but balancing the protein with the fiber, because with the constipation, we do need the fiber. And I am continuing to do the belly massage, even though I'm not sure if
Right.
it's actually worked. I do feel better when I do
Mm,
that. So I'm going to continue that. I think my future does include more of the stress management. One of the things I'm looking at, as much as I love coffee, I also am hypothyroid. So I take levothyroxine first thing in the morning, and I have to take it
mm,
on an empty stomach, and
mm,
I can't have coffee right away. So I am pushing that out a little bit further. And I used to be that girl that could drink 2 cups of coffee and I'd be ready to go. Everything is great, but I'm finding that it's too much. So
mm.
I'm not letting go completely, but I'm going longer before I have it in the morning, having just maybe like a half a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup, doing my workout.
Yeah.
Then I'm finding that I have to really replenish. I have my, protein, fiber breakfast,
Mm,
then I can have a cup of coffee and I'm not
mhm.
getting the bloating, and it is not causing the constipation because I've tried without. That was part of my protocol, was getting rid of coffee for a while. It was terrible. And, but it didn't make a difference. So there's no point in
Okay.
taking it out.
Right, right.
But now I'm having coffee later, and mentally, cortisol wise, stress wise, it's
Mm,
much better to have just a little bit later than if I want a second cup to have it after I've eaten.
yeah. Again, it goes to show you, yeah, we're all works in progress. And one thing we can count on is things will probably change. And if you check back with us in another year or so, we might be tweaking something else. But isn't that that's kind of the takeaway. It's just to be in tune with whatever is starting to feel like it's just my normal. Um, no, question that, because we know what's not right. We know what's different. And I think bottom line, we know how we want to feel and how we want to present ourselves to the world. And we can't do that when we don't feel well. Bottom line. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think in addition to Melissa's advice to really tune in, listen to your body, listen to your gut, advocate for yourself, and ask a lot
Hmm.
of questions also,
Hmm.
and try to find out what practitioners can help you, what resources do you have. I
Yeah.
don't recommend Google necessarily. I'm just looking at different practitioners who might have some expertise in it,
Right.
because whatever you're going through, we want to fix it right now. And we're very willing, unfortunately, it's just kind of like a diet. We're very willing to do very quick fix things, but most of it's not sustainable. But not only
Hmm.
is it not sustainable, it's not always the right, course. So we need different input from
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
practitioners.
Yeah.
And I think that I love when you said listen to your body, because I wasn't listening. I just kept thinking, and I wasn't tracking. Folks, time is flying by as we get older, by the way. So I was letting this go on for a long time, thinking it was going to resolve itself.
Right.
And I did not track until Melissa and I decided to talk to you all about it. I didn't sit down and really look at the dates.
I
And it's
know.
been going on way too long. I probably
Yeah.
should have been working on it earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, because we can procrastinate. We can just hope and assume that it's just going to go away. Generally speaking, it doesn't. It does needs it needs attention.
It
It's
does.
very
But thank
important.
you for
Yeah,
sharing and thank you for being vulnerable today. I appreciate that. I know the listeners do. And
absolutely.
thanks
Same
for
for you,
listening
Kim.
to the
Hmm.
TMI constipation conversation. I could have gotten worse, but
Well,
so yeah,
it takes a lot for you to come on and share, to be that transparent. So yeah, I'm very thankful for you. Yes, yeah, this has been a journey, and there's a purpose in all of this. There always is. There always will be. So
absolutely. Well, thank you all for listening, and we appreciate your
yes.
feedback too. Get in touch with us. Melissa, where are you on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm at Blood Sugar Boss on Instagram, and hello at Abundant Health. Well, website's abundanthealthwithmelissa.com. That's the easiest way to find me, right?
Yes, and I'm
How
at
about you?
Kim Hynes Help with a Y, Hynes, Hynes, but also kimhynes.com. So we want to
Yes,
hear your feedback, what you're going through. And if you see our promotions of this podcast episode online, jump in. Let us know what you've been going through because we are all in this together.
absolutely. Share your story. Absolutely. Because chances are you have a story as well. Yes. It may not be as colorful as ours or whatever, whatever that means. But we all have a story. There's a reason that you're here. There's a reason this topic spoke to you today. And we're glad that you came in and took a listen.
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Melissa.
Yes. We will see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.